Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Backman Report. Every week, my co-host Fred Altvater and I get together and check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. Fred, hi, how are you this week?
Hey, Carlos, great to see you back. I know you took some time last week and did some vacationing with your wife, so good for you. Time well earned. I know you've been working really hard at your job, so glad you got away for a little bit. Kieran filled in. We want to thank him again for coming on and chatting. He did a fantastic job. We covered some topics and got some great discussion in. As you know, I mean, he is so knowledgeable on pretty much anything golf, and he doesn't shy away from giving his opinion and his thoughts. So it really turned out really well. Oh my God, Carlos, it's December. You have your Christmas shopping done. Oh my goodness, it'll be Christmas before you know it. And also that brings up another point. You know, we've got just 2 more weeks, 2 more shows after this month. And then we shut down at the end of the year. And we always have our big end of the year top stories in golf. I have no clue what'll be the top story this year. I can't imagine what would be the top story in 2020. But we're going to have Kieran in for that, and we're going to talk everything golf here in 2 weeks, wrap up the year. Last week one was actually pretty good. Here at the end of the year, there wasn't a lot going on because it was Thanksgiving, but Emily Pedersen, oh my goodness, she is making a tremendous name for herself. It's 4 in a row on the Ladies European Tour, 5th win this season. Bezuidenhout. How's that for a pronunciation, right? He won in South Africa. He's quite a story. We're going to get into that later. And then, of course, the big news this week is the new working agreement between the PGA and the European Tours. We're going to discuss that at length a little later also on the show. Plus, both the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour are back to work this week. Can't wait, Carlos. We got enough golf to talk about. Let's go.
Let's go, and right away we got to go with our weekend backspin, and we're gonna start talking about the recaps of what happened this weekend on the golf action. Like you mentioned, there wasn't that much to talk about, but hey, there was a few tournaments and pretty good action. And let's start by talking about the match, the match 3, Champions for Change. And while this third installment of the match maybe wasn't as competitive as the first or second, both of which, of course, featured Tiger Woods, this holiday weekend edition brought a few laughs. I didn't watch it live. We texted. I was driving at the time, so I wasn't able, but I watched it later, recorded. And I got to say, trash talk started early, lasted throughout the match as Phil Mickelson and Charles Barkley defeated eventually Peyton Manning and Steph Curry 4-3. That was Friday at Stone Canyon in Oro Valley in Arizona. The sports stars spent the afternoon raising money for HBCUs and meals for family need. In the 15 holes it took Mickelson and Barkley to win, $4.4 million were raised for HBCUs. Now, with the additional challenge holes, the total then grew to $5.4 million. What can I say? On the course, I was impressed with Charles Barkley, who has a new and effective swing. I was expecting, his golf swing, which we all know is infamous and hilarious. But hey, leave it to Phil Mickelson, the master teacher. I can't believe it. He corrected it ahead of the match 3. Now, the extent to which Phil was involved in training his partner to a swing like a normal human, that is unclear. But when Barkley debuted his new swing Friday, it really impressed even the analysts and fans alike. Deion Sanders, I saw he joined the TNT's broadcast and even said Mickelson, and I'm going to quote him, he said, "turned water into wine." It was too funny, man, when discussing that Barkley's transformation. It's close to that. I guess that was the best part of the broadcast because Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal joined TNT's broadcast to tease Barkley. Mickelson even told Barkley, hey, you know, your colleagues are disrespecting you, before he handed him a golf ball with Shaq's face printed on it. Even Tom Brady, he didn't return to the charity competition after appearing in the match 2 in May, but that didn't stop him from trash talking. He even went to Twitter to tease Barkley for a less than ideal tee shot, and his tweet mocking Barkley's signature pronunciation of terrible. You know, he says horrible. So that tweet was featured there on the broadcast. But you know, Chuck wasn't the only one that was grilled by his teammates. Steph Curry's former teammate and current Miami Heat forward Andre Iguodala was featured there on TNT's broadcast. He roasted Curry's outfit, asking the 3-time MVP, and I'm going to quote him. He says, "I want to know how many zebras had to die for you to look fly." That was off the course. On the course, the action, Phil and Charles dominated Steph and Peyton. Fred, I guess it did what it had to do, which was just raise the money for the HBCUs and the families for need. It was entertaining at some point. You know, you cannot expect, of course, because of the players. This was never anything to be a quality golf outing that you were going to see. But at least it reached the 5.5 million, which is really the ultimate goal that everybody was looking for.
You're exactly right. It's all about the charity. They did a great job with that. But I got to tell you, as you know, neither one of us was very excited about this when it was announced a few months ago. So, you know, these kind of things are just, they're funsy little deals, and it's nice. Fills up some airtime on a holiday weekend, you know, kind of a dead Friday kind of thing. It was okay. It was all right. But I was impressed. I have to say, I was really impressed with Phil. And as you know, I'm not a big Phil fan, but I chuckled with you know, with what he was doing and what he was telling Charles and trash talking with Steph Curry and Peyton Manning and Phil coached Charles around that golf course absolutely perfectly. I mean, I would think Phil would have been exhausted by the time he got done, because he was really working hard with Charles, and Charles listened. Now, and so evidently they had to practice around the day before, and Phil got him to doing this thing of open the door and close the door. And so basically what he did, he got him to swinging his shoulders instead of just using his hands. And if you noticed, whenever Charles missed a shot, his first move was here, and then he got handsy. That's when he missed it. When he took it all the way back and all the way through, he hit it great. And Phil had him using a 5-iron off the tee a lot of times just to get it out there on grass. Because if he could just get it out there 200 yards or 180 yards, because he was playing from the forward tees, Phil could get it on the green. So, you know, and that was working for him with that modified alternate shot. And it's so, you know, and I got to tell you, I mean, I love this, right? Because there's no TrackMan, there's no spin rate, launch angle, all that bull crap. Just turn the shoulders back and through and happen to hit the ball in between. It's that simple, Carlos. No wonder golf gets such a bad rap with all these so-called instructors completely confusing average golfers with intricate instruction that should be saved for low handicappers and professionals only. So like I say, I was really impressed with Phil. I had a lot of fun watching Charles. He putted magnificently. Phil would showing the line, and Charles would put it right on it with excellent speed. I mean, every putt was, you know, seemed like he was within 1 or 2 feet of the hole. So that really helped Phil out quite a bit. So the other thing about this, though, you know, we talked about this, that there's no way somebody is beating a pro. I don't care if you have 4 guys and you play their best ball, a pro is going to beat them if they're amateurs, right? So I can't believe somebody was actually betting on Curry and Manning. If they were, they just deserve to lose their money, because they're pros for a reason, because they are better and they do it all the time and they know what they're doing. I mean, you wouldn't take an amateur and say, okay, we're going to hit home runs against the guy from LA. What's his name? What's
Max
that?
Churso.
Yeah. You're not gonna put somebody against him, right? He's gonna beat him every time. Same thing on the golf course. Phil's gonna beat whoever you trot out there. So, but his coaching of Charles was outstanding. So my final thought on this thing, Carlos, I'll get off of it. How does Stephen Curry get invites into pro events? He is not that good, not by a long shot. I don't know how he gets the handicap he's got. His short game is absolutely atrocious. His driving and irons are not that great either. So I don't know how he gets the handicap he's got, but I was not impressed. I do like Peyton Manning's game. He doesn't try to do anything fancy, just knocks it down the middle, plays that little draw, knocks it up by the green, goes about his business. Did you know that? Did you hear him say he was a member at Augusta National now? Good for him, man. But I like the way Peyton plays. But Stephen Curry's got a lot of work to do to live up to his handicap.
Let me tell you, to me, I'm like you. I expected Steph because I had never seen him play. But I expected, by all the things that we have talked about or read or heard about, I expected him to be a little more competitive, right? But it wasn't. I don't know if it's just the stage that he was in, even though it was just for charity. He could have gone away.
He's been off for a couple months playing every day. They're going back to work now. So he's at the end of his vacation. He's been playing.
So anyway, to him, I would expect him to just go out and play. But maybe he's better without pressure. I don't know. But definitely he didn't show as a player that I thought he was. Maybe the reason why there was some betting on him and Peyton is because we have seen Peyton, and he's in a great player, but he's consistent and he can put the ball in play. And maybe if Steph would have been that same way, everybody just, I guess, and this is a betting's mind, right? The bettor's mind is that Charles wasn't that good as he displayed this Friday. He definitely came in and played really good compared to what we have seen from him.
Absolutely.
So from what you see, the sample that we had, any bettors would say, well, he's going to put Phil in trouble. He's going to have to come up with some shots, and maybe, yeah. So he was going to have to come up with a lot of good shots to try to beat Steph and Peyton if they would have been just consistent enough. So maybe that was the mindset of the bettors, trying to bet on them. I wouldn't have done it anyway. But anyway, I was impressed with Charles. I don't know how much practice he got into it.
I'm going to give you a piece of wisdom here, Carlos. Never bet against the pro.
Especially Phil Mickelson. He's a betting pro. So he's not only a pro in golf, he's a betting pro. So I wouldn't bet against him. But anyway, great showing. My last question to you for closing is do you think Phil has a second career as a coach after he's done?
No, he wouldn't be able to put up with all the crap. I mean, he will have his friends that he will help and show some stuff, but no, he could never, he'd never be able to put up all the crap you'd have to do. The people you have to put up with are your coach and the attitudes, especially the men that think they know everything. And no, I don't see that. Phil has got it made. I mean, he's got more money unless he gambles it all away, right? He's got the opportunity to keep earning money. If he needs a few bucks, he can go out on the Champions Tour and pick up 250, 300 grand in a heartbeat. He still gets a bunch of money from Callaway for sponsorships, plus some other people. So he can pretty much do what he wants to do. And we've seen it, Carlos. When he sat in the booth earlier this year, he was fantastic. He was really great in front of the camera. I could see him taking 3 or 4 guys and doing a little match like this, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Go to I guess Stone Canyon, I guess he owns that. I guess that's his golf course. I could see him going to some of the really fancy golf courses and taking some guys and kind of leading them around the golf course in some kind of a little money match or some kind of a deal for charity. I think he could kind of make a show out of it.
He definitely could, and we'll see. I guess the questions will be who will be on the match 4. But we'll see about that. Anyway, talking now about the European Tour, where Christiaan Bezuidenhout, he claimed his second victory in a memorable year for him, definitely. He won the Alfred Dunhill Championship by 4 shots at Leopard Creek and now moves from world number 61 to 41, 20 spots. So he's right now on the top 50. He bounced back from a front nine where he dropped 3 shots in 2 holes. And he might have thought at that time, oh my God, I'm out of this. But then he made 3 key birdies on the back nine to close with a 69, and he won on 14 under par. You know, this is his second victory this year. He won the Dimension Data Pro-Am on the Sunshine Tour in February, and he came 2 weeks after he made his debut in the Masters and finished tied for 38th there. Now, it's also his second European Tour title after his victory in last year's Estrella Damm North Andalusia Masters. A group of 4 players finished tied for second and 10 under par. That included South Africa's Jaden Shaper, England's Richard Bland, American Sean Crocker, and Poland's Adrian Meronk. Bezuidenhout started the final round 3 shots off the lead of Meronk, who, by the way, became the first Polish player to lead a round on the European Tour. And he was also looking to become the first one to win a tournament there in the European Tour. But he struggled to a final round of 76. The door was briefly open also for Shaper as he moved to the top of the leaderboard, but it was brief because then his back nine of 40 crushed his title's hopes. He closed with a 75. For the American Crocker, he was also tied for second, but he was second after he gave Bezuidenhout a nice easy walk down the 18 to a triple bogey 8 at the finishing hole. It was really bad for him. Bland was the 4th man and tied for second in his 5th runner-up finish of the last 2 years after 4 second places on the Challenge Tour last year. Fred, interesting about Bezuidenhout, he turned pro in 2015. He speaks with a pronounced stammer. That's a result of mistakenly drinking rat poison when he was just 2 years old. Then he took beta blockers to control the stammer, which led to a failed drug test during the 2014 British Amateur Championship. That gave him a 2-year ban, but that one was reduced to 9 months because after pleading with the officials on that, they agreed, hey, he was not seeking any unfair advantage. However, that cost him to consequently miss representing South Africa in the Eisenhower Trophy, moved forward 5 years, and now he won on the European Tour in just his 57th appearance last year. He won the Dimension Data Pro-Am on the Sunshine Tour in February after a second place in the Omega Dubai Desert Classic. Let me tell you, he was really clearly on the rise and on the radar when the pandemic hit and forced the lockdown of all the tours. And now he seems to be starting to get that form from early in the year. Even Gary Player was impressed with him enough to say that South Africa's golf future is in good hands. I bet we're going to start seeing more of him in the top of the leaderboards in the future, Fred.
Yeah, it's tough enough to play professional tournament golf, right? But when you have all these issues swirling around in your head and on these problems, it gets even tougher. So I really didn't know this backstory on him prior to winning this week and reading about it. So really kind of impressed, and will try and keep my eye on him a little bit more now going forward. So, I mean, this, having these problems led to anxiety and depression. So he needs these beta blockers and these things to keep him on an even keel so he can even get through the day, let alone trying to deal with bogeys and double bogeys and birdies and all that other stuff on a golf course. So all kudos to him. It's great to see him doing well, and really great story in golf. Again, Carlos, there's so much of this kind of stuff that we really don't know about, and I love it when we get to talk about it.
Most definitely. And Christian is a player that was on the rise. He was definitely on golf's radar before the lockdown. And his story is one of those that we definitely will be following. And hopefully we can see him more on the top of the leaderboards moving forward. Now, let's talk about Emily K. Pedersen. Oh, my goodness gracious. She is on fire. She's on fire. If there's a player that you have to look for, is Christine Pedersen. It's been a good November for her. Following rounds of 68, 71, 68, she shot a final round of 66 and won the Ladies European Tour's Andalusia Open de España. That was on Sunday at 15 under, and it was her third straight win. She's a 24-year-old and was coming off a pair of wins at the Saudi Ladies Team International at the Royal Greens Golf and Country Club in Saudi Arabia. And also she won the Tip Sports Czech Ladies Open in August. She has 5 top 10s and an 11th place finish in the AIG Women's British Open in August on her resume as the U.S. Women's Open glows larger on the horizon. This victory marked just the second time a player has won 3 straight events on the Ladies European Tour. If you think that's something that happens all the time, no. You know, when was the last time that was accomplished? It was 1989 by Marie-Laure De Lorenzi back in 1989. So it had been 31 years since that happened.
I think Laura Davies did it once, and I think maybe Annika did it once, or so. I think there's the other 2 that's ever done it, I think, right? Or that, and then the lady you mentioned. Well,
this is the second time on the Ladies European Tour. So it's only the only time was with Marie-Laure De Lorenzi, and that was in 89. So for her, in her 5th LET win at the Real Club de Guadalmina with her father on the back, Spain's Nuria Torres was 1 shot entering the final round after closing her 3rd round with an eagle on the 54 hole. After her bogey-free 66, Pedersen now finished 4 shots ahead of Gutierrez at 11 under. Amateur Ana Peláez of Spain finished at 7 under. Sana Nutinen and Maha Hadui finished T4 at 6 under, while Chloe Frankish, Asahara Munoz, and Manon Guidali are T6 at 5 under. Macon Bing Paulsen and Luna Soberon Galvez round up the top 10, finishing at T9 at 4 under. You know, hoping to continue her recent stroll, Pedersen now is turning her sights onto the U.S. Women's Open, starting at Champions Golf Club in Houston next week. But Fred, despite her success on the Ladies European Tour, she has struggled in major events in the U.S. Her highest finish is a T36 at the 2017 Women's PGA Championship. Let's see if this newfound confidence will translate into success this side of the pond. She's definitely playing at an all-time high right now.
You know, watching her play, I got to see quite a bit of her last week, actually. Because she had done so well the previous couple of weeks, I wanted to see what all the hype was about. And she impressed me. She plays very calm and cool, much like Jin Yun Ko, actually. So I really, and you talk about playing well in the majors or coming to the United States, playing in the U.S. Women's Open next week. She has the perfect game for that. Now, if her confidence level carries over and she continues under the same path, she could easily do a top 10 at the U.S. Women's Open. I'm loving the way she's playing. Yeah, she's not beating the kind of competition she's going to see in Texas in a couple of weeks, but she, you know, and you know, second place there, Nuria Torres, that's the young lady I got to play with at French Lick last year. And I said then, you know, she's got a really great game, just need to shore up her putting a little bit. That was the only thing that she was having a problem with when I played with her. And her attitude is, I'm talking about Torres now, her attitude is great. She's a lot of fun to watch. But getting back to Pedersen, you know, and Carlos, you talk about her past history here. Her past history anywhere other than her rookie year has not been very good. Her rookie year was 2015. She won the British Ladies Amateur Championship in 2014. She turned pro. She had 2 runners-up and a win in her rookie season. She was off and running. The sky was the limit. She was Rookie of the Year on the Ladies European Tour. But things went south. 2017, she only played in 9 events, made 4 cuts. She played in a couple of Sumatra Tour events, made both those cuts, earned a whopping $3,000. In 2018, in 4 events, she only made 2 cuts. In 2019, in 14 events, had 3 cuts, made 0 top 10s, and earned just 30,000 euro. So she'd fallen clear to 509th in the world, thought about quitting the game. It was too much for her. It was just tearing her up. But she's got a new attitude. She's back playing now in 13 starts this year, 10, a bunch of top 10. She's made every cut. She's just been fantastic this year by far. So she won 415,000 on the Ladies European Tour. That's like winning $3 million on the LPGA Tour. I mean, that's for the LET, that's a lot of money when they're paying 40 or 50 grand for first place. And she's accumulated about 300,000 of that in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So she's had a really hot run here. She's on a high coming into the U.S. Women's Open in a couple of weeks. So, I like her game a lot. I was impressed watching her. And, it's fun to see these kind of stories and these kind of rising young stars coming along, Carlos.
Well, we have talked about this before. The 2020 hasn't been the same year as every other year, and has forced a lot of these players to play, especially in Europe, against not top-notch class fields. Yeah. Now, at least on the European Tour, we have seen some of those young and rising stars, when the big stars come on, not produce the same way. Emily K. Pedersen, she has been talked about before. She hasn't really reached the potential before, but finally seems like she's hitting a stride. I think she's different than all those other players. A win is a win. We have said that. A win is a win. But I truly think she's realizing that potential that was talked about before from her. Now, the thing is, will she be able to be calm enough when she goes to a major? Now, that's a different story. She has the game. I think she can do well if she can just calm down and maintain that concentration and realize that big a moment is not such a big moment at all, and she plays her game. I think she has a chance. I don't think she'll win, but I think she'll do well. Maybe she won't start that well. That's how I see it, because maybe she'll be a little nervous at the beginning. But anyway, we'll talk about the U.S. Women's Open next week. But Fred, do you agree with that, or you think that she would be, for what you have seen, she would be just with her mind, okay, I'm just going to go attack and I'm going to win this thing? With
the quality field is going to be at the U.S. Women's Open, I don't see her winning. But I do see her maybe top 20, top 25. The thing is, Carlos, she's been through the low. She's come through the darkness. She knows what it's all about. And so she's in a really good place right now. Her mind is clear. She's calm and controlled. I did not see her missing many shots. Matter of fact, I can't think back. Her chipping and her putting and mid irons were spot on. Her irons were so good. I mean, she was hitting her spot on the green that she was aiming at almost every time from 150 yards and in. And she's long enough. When she was hitting her driver good, she was out there, 5, 10, 15 yards ahead of the other ladies that were playing with her. So she's got the distance, and her iron game was so good. So I like the way she do it. Like I say, I'm agree with you. I don't think she's going to win, but I think she's going to do okay. I think she's going to be somebody that we're going to be watching for a while now, Carlos.
Definitely. I think that next year will be her breakout year if she continues to do that. Now, to close it up, let's talk about, the youngsters. Rose Chang just keep adding titles to her 2020 collection. The 17-year-old defended her AJGA Rolex Tournament of Champions crown on November 28th, winning the season finale of the AJGA calendar. She has now won 3 AJGA invitational titles. The Tournament of Champions joins the Rolex Junior, Girls Junior, and the Ping Invitational Trials. Those go along with her U.S. Women's Amateur crown, as well as her third-place finish at this year's Annika Invitational. She was named the AJGA's Rolex Player of the Year for the second year in a row, and she's also the top-ranked player in the World Amateur Golf Rankings. Now, in the boys division of the Tournament of Champions, David Ford capped his 2020 in a similarly fitting way. The North Carolina commit from Peachtree Corners, Georgia, made the Tournaments of Champion his third AJGA Invitational title of the year after winning the AJGA Invitational at Sedgefield in June, the first event of the AJGA restart, and following that with the Junior Players Championship title 2 months later. Interestingly enough, all three of Ford's AJGA Invitational victories came at the venues that host PGA Tour tournaments. So maybe we're seeing a few things to come from David Ford. I don't know, it's a long way to go. But at least Fred finishing for Rose, fitting 2020, incredible youngster that has a bright future ahead. And David Ford, definitely another good one, up-and-coming amateur.
Yeah, Zhang, we've been talking about her now for about a year and a half or 2 years that she's just been playing at such a high level. You know, a young player, but you know, that's when they come up. You know, we go back to Lydia Ko, you know, coming up at 14 years old and starting to dominate. And we're going to talk about the young girl that got a sponsor exemption into the VOA this week, Alexa.
Hannah.
Yeah. And you know, they just keep coming, Carlos. They just, you know, all the time, every year we've got somebody new to keep coming that's coming up through the ranks, and they're better all the time. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, and they have that confidence that, you know, it's incredible the way they just keep playing. Like it's like old souls playing, even though they're the youngsters that they are. And with that, we wrap up our weekend backspin or the weekend's action. And now let's talk about what's going to happen this weekend, because there's action everywhere in the European Tour. There's 2 tournaments there. There's in the LPGA and the PGA Tour. By the way, in the PGA Tour is the Mayakoba Golf Classic. They're going to play it at the El Camaleon Golf Course in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. That's a short 7,017 yards long course that plays par 71. They will play for a purse of $7.2 million, with the winner getting a check for $1.29 million. Dustin Johnson, he had committed to play before winning the Masters. Then he decided to withdraw late last week. Justin Thomas is playing this event for the first time since his rookie season. That was 6 years ago. JT right now at world's number 3 is the only player from the top 10 in the world playing this tournament. The field is not that bad. I mean, it includes also 4-time major champion Brooks Koepka, Ricky Fowler, and Harris English. Ryder Cup captain Steve Stricker playing his first PGA Tour event since the Memorial in July. He most recently played in the U.S. Open in September. Carlos Ortiz of Mexico is playing for the first time as a PGA Tour winner. He won the Houston Open a week before the Masters and did not play at Sea Island. So he and Abraham Ancer are giving Mexico 2 players from the top 75 in the world active here. So those, look for them to be the ones that everybody's going to be watching there in Mexico. When this tournament began in 2007, there were no Mexicans on the top 200. So this is big for them. Joaquin Niemann's worth mentioning because he's donating his entire prize money and $5,000 for every birdie and $10,000 for eagles to help pay for a drug for his 2-month-old relative in Chile. And Fred also, by the way, also U.S. amateur champion Andy Ogletree, the low amateur at the Masters, is going to be making his pro debut on a sponsors exemption.
Yeah, you know, he played at such a great level at the Masters. It wouldn't surprise me to see him do well down there. Of course, I'm sure he's been doing a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks. You know, it's hard, you know, when you're young like that, a lot of things happen all at once. And so hopefully he'll have his head screwed on right. Talk a little bit about betting odds, Carlos. You got Justin Thomas is the betting favorite, 6-1. Brooks Koepka, 10-1. I don't know if I'd separate Justin and Brooks that much. I think I would keep them a little bit closer together. Harris English, 14-1. Tony Finau, Daniel Berger, Abraham Ancer, and Victor Hovland. We haven't talked about Victor lately. 18-1. We got Ricky Fowler's playing. You know, he's almost an afterthought anymore. 25-1. Your guy, Will Zalatoris, is in the field, 28-1. The Canadian Corey Connors, 30-1. Joaquin's in at 33-1. You got, you talked about Leishman, Horschel, and Carlos Ortiz, 41. So Sebastian Munoz played so well there for a couple weeks. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do this well. Abraham Answer also has been playing well lately. So, yeah, this tournament's been a fall event, and it's usually doesn't get this good a field, and especially late in the year like this. Nobody's really wanting to play that much, but yeah, it should be interesting, fun to watch. We'll give her a look.
Definitely. I hope the winner, tips his caddy properly. Did I say anything wrong? Oh, sorry.
The Matt Kuchar tip?
Oh, I didn't say anything. But anyway, let's talk about the Volunteers of America Classic, which is the first of back-to-back events in Texas. Yay! With the U.S. Women's Open to follow at the Champions Golf Club in Houston next week. The ladies will be playing at the Old American Golf Course in the Colony in Texas. That's just about 20 minutes from my home. I could even walk if I wanted to, but I won't be. The course will be playing 6,475 yards long. They'll play at par 71. For a purse of $1.75 million, the winner will bag $262,500. Cheyenne Knight won her first LPGA Tour event last year here at Old American. She has had only two top 10 finishes since then. Ying Young Ko, the world's #1 player in women's golf, is playing for the second straight week. Of course, she's trying to continue her repetitions for the U.S. Women's Open Championship next year. She tied for 34th 2 weeks ago in her first LPGA Tour event of the year. Young Lee 6, the defending Women's Open champion, also is in the field. 6 of the top 10 in the world are playing this week. Among those missing are Danielle Kang, Nelly Korda, and Brooke Henderson. But one that's going to be here, So-Yeon Yu. She's playing her first U.S. event on the LPGA Tour since the season-ending CME Tour Group Tour Championship last year. She's a past U.S. Women's Open champion, so you can bet she's here to try to get in shape for that. Fred, this is a tournament that dates back to 2013. Inbay Park is the only player to win more than once. What you think about this tournament this weekend?
$1.75 million purse, $262,000 to the winner. Par 71 golf course. They're going to play 4 rounds. So this is a perfect tune-up going into the U.S. Women's Open next week. They're able to get used to the Texas climate, time, the whole deal. This is just a perfect way to get ready for the U.S. Women's Open. As you mentioned, you've got a lot of good names. There's only a couple women that aren't there. Really surprised that they're not. You've got, I don't know who to pick for a favorite here. I mean, you've got really such great names in there. Texas players, let's just talk about them for a minute. Celine Boutier, Kristen Gilman. Boy, she could use a really good finish. She's not had that great a year, so this could be a good place for her to do well. Ming Young He, you mentioned Cheyenne Knight, Brittany Lang, Miriam Lee, Sue Oh, Jarena Pillar is a Texas native, Angela Stanford, and Jin Yang. So, this is, I'm sure, for a home game, they want to do well down there. Alexa Pano, as I mentioned earlier, she's got the sponsor's exemption. She seems to always do pretty decent when she's in a pro tournament for a really young girl. So should be interesting. They've had a week off now. They enjoyed Thanksgiving last week. Let's get back to work, play this week, and then go to the U.S. Women's Open next week.
Definitely very tough to try to pick a winner on that one, especially because we haven't seen that much form recently. But we'll see. It's going to be a very good tune-up. Just a 1 hour flight back to Houston, so it should be an easy way to get there. But
it's only just a few hours drive, 4-hour drive down the highway. Why would you fly?
I'm sure they will fly. I don't think Anyway, let's talk about the South African Open. It will be played at the Gary Player Country Club, which spans 7,827 yards. We'll play at a par 72. That's a long course. Prize money is $1.28 million. The winner will get $202,000. The tournament is co-sanctioned by the European Tour which created a new event for this week in Dubai, and we'll talk about it next. So don't wait. I mean, wait for it. The South African Open dates to 1903, making it the third oldest national open behind the British Open, which started in 1860, and the U.S. Open in 1895. Gary Player holds the record with 13 victories over a span of 25 years. Is playing his National Open for the first time since 2018. It was held last season in January 2020, so it's the second time they're playing it in the same year. And Fratelli was eligible for the Century Tournament of Champions at Kapalua, reason why he didn't play it. This is the final event before the top 60 qualifier for the DP World Tour Championship in Dubai. Among those on the bubble, one that you have to look for is Dean Burmester, who's here. He's at number 62, trying to get in. By winning last week, Bezuidenhout moved to number 41, like we mentioned, giving each European sanctioned event this week a player from the top 50. Bezuidenhout also virtually locked up a spot in the Masters next April, so he's another one to look for here on the South African Open. Of course, the locals are going to be favored and look up to see who's going to win it there.
Yeah, you got two events going on, the South African Open and the Golf in Dubai Championship, not to be confused with the DP World Championship next week. Down in South Africa, a lot of the guys were down there last week or the last couple of weeks, so they stuck around and played in this. A lot of the guys that are already in the top 60 are already playing going up to Dubai. So this will not have quite as good a field down in South Africa as the other tournament. But as you say, this is the last chance. If anybody's on that bubble, if they could have a really good week in South Africa against probably a little lesser field, they could jump over some people and maybe make it to the DP World Championship next week, where it's only going to be the top 60. So that's the thing to watch down there, Carlos. Really, pretty much that's really the main story in South Africa this week.
And there's another tournament, like you mentioned, the Golf in Dubai Championship, which is among 15 tournaments that were not part of the European Tour schedule at the start of the season. The tournament was added to the schedule to create back-to-back weeks in Dubai ahead of the season-ending DP World Tour Championship, also held at the Jumeirah Golf Estates. Just sort of a practice to see if they can get ready for playing the DP World Championship. This course plays at a 7,480 yards long, plays at a par 72. The purse for this tournament will be 1.2 million euros, and the winner earns 200,000 euros. Bernd Wiesberger of Austria is the only player from the top 50 in the field, but also playing is Scotland's Robert McIntyre, is playing really, really good, and will try over the next 2 weeks to crack the top 15 hopes of getting into the Masters next year. Fred, also former major champions Danny Willett and Martin Keimer, who are sort of on the rebound, playing some of their best golf lately, are going to be playing there as well. So how about this new tournament there prior to the DP World Championship?
Yep, this is one they were able to stick in there. It works real well, trying to get the guys in one location and kind of keep them close and safe and away from everybody else. So you got some of the better names coming in there to Dubai this week ahead of the DP World Championship. So should be a good tournament. You got a lot riding on the line here over the next couple weeks. Of course, you got the Race to Dubai Champion. You got the Rookie of the Year to watch out for. So you've got some Americans that are up high on the list. You got Patrick Reed, actually, I think, leading the Race to Dubai. So yeah, there's a lot. The golf is focused right now on Europe more than anything else between South Africa and Dubai. We talked, and they were the only game in town last week with their tournament in South Africa and also the Ladies European Tour event. So, yeah, golf is hot, and which normally this time of year it is because they wrap up their season with the DP World Championship anyhow, right here at the end of the year. So things kind of that's one of the things that's kind of normal actually in this year.
Most definitely, and I have to say that we have to see how they are going to be shaping up. I mean, it doesn't seem like the top players that are here in the States are going to be going to Dubai. So it's an opportunity for all those other players to try to make their name and some money as well next week there on the finals of the European Tour. With that, we wrap up our weekend for call. Fred, tell us a little bit about Boyne.
It's cold and snowy right now at Boyne Resort, but that's exactly how they like it over the winter up there. With the 10 beautiful golf courses, Boyne's a fantastic golf resort, but in the winter, it's the largest ski resort in the Midwest. They have 2 locations with excellent lifts and runs, as well as great food, entertainment, and activities for when you're not out there skiing in the snow. If you visit their website, boyne.com/golf, BOYNE.com/golf, they are offering some very exciting stay and play packages for 2021. Christmas idea alert, Carlos. Book a package for your family or favorite golfer and see everyone's eyes light up on Christmas morning. So Boyne, BOYNE.com/golf. Tell them Back Nine Report sent you.
All right, and now let's go to the Par 5 news. Every week we pick 5 pieces of news worth mentioning. And the first one that we're going to talk about, Robert Streb won the RSM Classic for the second time a couple of weekends ago, and he did it in style. I mean, this is just a decade-old event at Sea Island Resort. He knocked a wedge within inches of the hole to beat Kevin Kisner on the second hole of their sudden death playoff. Great drama, right? I mean, but Fred, what about, apparently nobody was watching. How about those ratings?
Yeah, as it ended up, the Masters ratings were down a little bit for the week. They weren't that bad on Sunday, but they were not that great on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Football, as we talked about before, football it's the big dog, and guys are going to watch football that maybe would normally watch a little golf. They're going to watch football over the golf. So the numbers for the RSM were not very good. And you mentioned Streb winning there, and he beat my guy, Kisner. I was pulling for him, but he got a bad lie in the rough there on that second playoff hole and couldn't do anything with it. So, but Streb played fantastic, and that shot he hit in there. But nobody was watching, Carlos. The ratings on Sunday for the 1 p.m. time slot was a .21, which is like nothing. Okay, that's way down. Saturday was even worse. It was a .19. To give you an idea, the LPGA Tour for the Pelican Women's Championship the same weekend, their numbers were .17 and .14, so they weren't that far behind. And the Friday coverage of the RSM was below that. So, it just didn't draw much of a crowd. And I have to say, I didn't watch a lot of it. I did watch a little bit on Sunday towards the end because I was watching Kisner to see if he could get the win. But not and it just, between the Masters and Thanksgiving, not a lot of big names there. Just who's gonna watch? There just wasn't a lot of reason to watch. So it just didn't draw that good on television.
Most definitely. Hey, but it's also part of all this different dynamic this year. Not everything has been the same. So to me, it's a throwaway. We'll see how about next year, how things go. Now, this past Sunday, there was ESPN's America's Son special, and that was about Tiger Woods. Fred, I'm going to let you go first. Was it worth watching?
I had a chance to watch the special on Sunday night, and it was okay, but not great. There wasn't much new in there, just a lot of rehash. Obviously, trying to shirt tail on the huge diversity and Black Lives Matter movement in this country right now. They did take some shots at Tiger as not wanting to be an African-American role model. I don't get what people expect from big-time athletes. It basically discounted his Asian roots completely, even though his mother is 100% from Thailand, and he holds that in very high regard. And so African Americans say, well, he thinks he's Asian, but he's really black. And so, they made a big deal about that in it. Most of the footage has been seen before. There wasn't a lot of new information. One of the things that I have to take exception with, they were talking to a a foursome of black golfers that play in Pittsburgh. And the interviewer made a reference to Oakmont East, a public golf course that borders Oakmont Country Club. And it made it seem like the fence that separates the public golf course from the private golf course was solely to keep African-American golfers out. You know, oh, you can play the public golf course, you can walk along, but, you know, the black players can't go in there. Well, listen, buddy, I can't go in there either. They're not letting me in. They're not letting any Joe Blow off the street. I'm sorry. Doesn't matter if you're Asian, Mexican, whatever, you ain't getting in there unless you got the money or you know somebody. So that turned me off a little bit right there. You know, they really tried to kind of make a point, and it didn't really hit right with me. So although I applaud ESPN for trying to take on a very serious issue, it seemed to be more like a rush to get in front of the crowd using Tiger references, but it didn't really do it for me, and it kind of left me wanting more, or maybe something a little different, Carlos.
To me, it was a little different than your take, and I'm going to explain why. The hour, to me, went by very quickly, and if we would have made it 2 hours that way, I wouldn't have protested at all. Watching longtime Golf Digest writer Pete McDaniel serve as one of the main voices, his insight and experience is definitely valuable.
I did like his comments. I agree. I did like his comments.
He definitely, you can, you know, the pain, the frustration in his voice discussing the various lost black legends who played during an era of segregation that lasted until 1961 in American professional golf course. You can feel it. It was there for him. You can feel it that way. And the reason for this is because, unlike other sports, though, for which diversity is fairly straight, increasing line on a graph after integration, golf has actually seen a contraction in black players, you can say to a shocking degree. As the documentary points out, in 1976, there were 11 black players on the PGA Tour. In 1997, when Tiger won his first Masters, he was the only one. Now, in 2020, there are 4. Okay, still a lot less than there were back in 1976. That's despite Tiger being one of the biggest athletes of all time, a true crossover cultural phenomenon for more than a decade. He clearly changed professional golf as a sport. Just look at purses, size, and television ratings. If anyone says it wasn't because of him, they're blatantly lying. That was Tiger Woods all along. He certainly helped change the type of athlete who would consider golf as well. But that clearly hasn't translated to a new wave of black players, which speaks to the many ways that golf remains economically inaccessible, which, given American society, is always going to make harder for minorities to take part. Now, some of the most powerful moments in the film, though, come when we see a teenage Woods talk with passion about how he knows he's going to be a huge star because he's black. And now he wants to carry that mantle to places like Augusta National because of that club's checkered racial history. Now your point. In contrast, and stark contrast, with still young but budding superstar Tiger on Oprah, when he made that famous Cablination comment in reference to his multiracial background. Yeah, that moment did not endear Tiger to a lot of people. And we get that archival footage of black legends like Calvin Peete and Jim Dent talking about their displeasure, along with interviews, subjects like former Augusta caddy Jeriah Bird, who is even more forceful with his criticism. Yes, I really take issue to that, because what I understand blacks are a minority, but so are Asians, so are Hispanics, so is everybody else. So the reason that he's embracing his ascendants is obvious there. And I applaud him for that, because he is embracing all those other minorities as well. But I take issue with them trying to make it just a black issue. And hey,
That's what turned me off right there.
Definitely. And I'm not against it. Okay. I'm not against trying to take, none of these are easy issues. Obviously, I understand, but you cannot make this just about blacks. There's also Asians, like you mentioned, about what happened in the golf course in Pittsburgh. It's definitely, I didn't like that you're trying to push it towards that. I understand it's not easy, but like you mentioned, you had it spot on. I won't even be there if I don't have the money or I don't know anybody. It doesn't matter my color, where I come from. You're not gonna make it. That's just the way it is. American Sun shines a spotlight on some areas in golf that have gone unnoticed for too long. Yeah, and it couldn't come at a more relevant time. We understand that. Look, it doesn't answer any questions because it really can't. This can't. What it does, though, is offer black voices the chance to discuss how golf in general and Tiger specifically help shape their lives. Sometimes, Fred, to me, just asking the right questions is even more important than trying to answer them. And a lot of golf media is either unequipped or unwilling to ask the questions this film is raising. But to me, the exception was the way that we're just trying to make it just one way, really trying to, you should embrace all minorities, not just one. And Tiger is part of all those minorities as well.
Did you, we didn't really talk about this on the show. We probably should have, the Muni that was on the Golf Channel a few weeks ago. That was really, really well done. So this municipal golf course that has embraced black or African-American golf over the years, they used to hold gigantic tournaments that were, African-American only, basically. And all the great players played there, Teddy Rhodes and they would come through and play. And it was so much better done than what this ESPN thing was done. And it talked about the real issue of segregation and golf and what they went through to get accepted to be able to play on tour and had to play in the all black events solely. So this I discounted. It was not that great. The Muni, if you get a chance to watch that, I would advise everybody to watch it because it was really well done.
Definitely, we'll watch it and we'll see. But definitely, this is just a topic of the times, and hopefully we can get better insights or better presentations coming forward as we move along the time. But anyway, let's talk about nearly 2 years after publicly questioning human rights practices in Saudi Arabia. UNICEF Ambassador Paul Casey has decided to play in the 2021 Saudi Invitational alongside some of the biggest names in golf. Players already committed to next year's event include Masters champion Dustin Johnson, US Open champion Bryson DeChambeau. You have two major champions going there. And according to golf.com, Tommy Fleetwood, Sergio Garcia, Terrell Hatton, Phil Mickelson, Ian Poulter, Patrick Reed, Henrik Stenson are also scheduled to play. As the 2019 Saudi Invitational approached, the Saudi government was awash in criticism after the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Both Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy declined an invitation to the inaugural event. Casey, native of England, turned down a chance to play as well. On his quotes, he was, of course, questioning, because of his association to UNICEF, the practices of human rights. Now he's saying, well, I'm learning, I'm willing to and open to learn and see, because you have to lead by example. Something that I applaud him saying, and this is what I have been saying all along about playing in the Saudi Invitational. You don't just talk, you just act. And if a way that you want to make a change is by acting on it, that's the way to do it. And if that's the reason, Paul, I applaud you for it. But now also I have to say, you are a hopeful for the European team at the 2021 Ryder Cup, and he's just 47th in points to qualify. So a strong showing at the competitive Saudi Invitational will definitely, Fred, help his Ryder Cup cause. So whichever is his intentions, it's good to see that, you know, he's there.
Well, Paul Casey is a pretty good player, and he's playing some of the best golf really of his career over the last year and a half. So for him to make it on the Ryder Cup team, if he just plays well in America, he's going to make the team. I know he's not beloved by other European Tour players, but he could get in if he just does well here in America. So he cited, you know, one of the reasons, well, they're doing a better job with including women in golf over there and doing some things. And yeah, right. So this goes into that category, Carlos. If you pay them enough, they will come. They finally just hit his threshold where they offered him enough upfront money that he'll show up and play. So, you know, Kieran and I really had a very good discussion last week when we were talking about, you know, the Ladies European Tour being there, and they actually held kind of two events simultaneously there with Emily Pedersen winning both of those. But Amnesty International has warned of the practice they call sports washing, and to refer to using sports to clean up the kind of political mess the Saudi government is perceived to be among the rest of the nations of the world, that they're not quite doing things that will permit them in polite society, right? So as I said, we reported the Ladies European Tour was there. They made a big deal about women's golf initiative they were starting, that 1,000 women signed up for in just a couple of days. And, you know, I guess this is all well and good, but Kieran mentioned several government-sanctioned killings. It's just not all sweetness and light among the Saudi nation. So we're going to talk a little bit later in the show about the Saudi-backed Premier Golf League and what steps the PGA Tour and the European Tours are taking to thwart that effort, from luring top professionals to play in their events and also taking over the European Tour altogether. So I like to think, Carlos, that openness is always a good thing, and maybe allowing athletes to compete for big prize money in Saudi Arabia will eventually lead to a better society over there for everyone. So maybe this is a good thing, but with the history that they have and some of the things that are still reported going on, it would be tough for me as a big name athlete to accept the money and go over there. They don't need it. They got more than they need. So I don't know. I'm kind of surprised with some of the guys jumping over there. I've been surprised for 2 years. So I should get over it, I guess. Like I say, if you pay them enough, they'll come.
Again, to me, this is just about making a change. And, you know, the thing is that we see cultures differently, because we're not just on the same upbringing as they are there. They are doing a change, but you cannot expect the change overnight on the flip of a switch. The changes in history take time. But if you don't take those first steps to try and make examples, because if you see, like Patrick Reed that first year when he was there, Ian Poulter, they were surprised at how well they were perceived, and the things that they went to the schools, to the kids, and promoting the sport and talking about things that some other times were not allowed. So they are making changes, but we cannot expect things just to go like that just because we want it to change. We have to keep going and keep going at it so that people continue to see the impact that you're trying to make. But if we just keep talking and talking and talking and say, I'm not going there, I'm not going to do anything, then we're really not doing anything for the change. So yes, they have to pay. They're doing it so that they can afford, they have the money, the players don't need it, but hey, if they are doing it that way, I have no issue with it. As long as they keep doing changes, slow by little, that's how you reach a big change after all. But anyway, I know for it it's difficult, but I think act, not so much talking. So anyway, let's talk about something that I know you love, a topic I know you're going to be talking a lot about right now because you are passionate about it and you love it. But, you know, the 2021 Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines will be held January 28 to 31. Yes, it's still on the schedule. It's going to be there, but no fans in attendance. The Century Club of San Diego is the nonprofit organization that operates the PGA Tour event and made its no fan announcement on a release yesterday. The tournament is the fourth event of the 2021 on the PGA Tour's schedule, and it comes a week after the American Express at PGA West in La Quinta, California, and a week before the Waste Management Phoenix Open in Scottsdale. The Century Tournament of Champions is January 7th to the 10th, 2021, which is the first event of the new year. The Maui News is reporting that a limited number of fans will be allowed on site at the TOC. However, the second event on the docket, which is the Sunny Open in Hawaii, will be contested without fans at the Wailalai Country Club. That according to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. The American Express had previously announced it would be held without fans. You know, the Thunderbirds, which is the organization which runs the Phoenix Open, it's hoping to have fans at the TPC Scottsdale, but there will be nothing close to the daily attendance that typically reaches six figures. So, Fred, at least seems like January, we're still looking at no fans in golf.
You're not going to see any fans, Carlos, probably through the first quarter, I'm guessing. We'll be lucky to see any fans at the, at the Masters next year if they get that far. Probably if the Players is held in March, that'll be tough too. I don't know. They've got the vaccines. They say they're going to have them out. They're going to have them available. They're supposed to start issuing them to first responders here within, about 2 weeks. So they got to get that ramped up and get them going. But I don't know. Until the vaccine is widely used and millions of people have been vaccinated and they get the numbers under control, don't see it happening, Carlos. Even though on a golf course, it's easy for people to spread out, but we saw it, on the tournament where they had some fans at Bermuda. They were all congregated around the 18th green. There wasn't much social distancing going on there. So we're not going to have fans for a while. This really doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, the issue that I see is that even though golf courses are huge, but then you start seeing the players getting to the 18 or to a specific hole, and everybody. I don't want to watch it from all the way all the way out there when I can try to watch it closely. So it's very difficult to try to see how you're going to social distance people, and I have to agree with you. I don't think that that is going to change anytime soon. And the vaccine, we don't know really when it's going to happen. Hopefully it's faster than we think, but yeah, it's sad to continue to see things going this way. Now, Fred, there was an announcement about the John Deere partnering with the LPGA and the LET for a long-term agreement. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, just came out today. John Deere has had an agreement with the Ladies European Tour for 3 years, so they renewed that. But they also announced a new 3-year deal, marketing partnership with the LPGA Tour. The John Deere becomes the LPGA Tour's official golf course equipment supplier and will support the LPGA Foundation's efforts to introduce more girls to the game of golf. This is the part that really interests me, Carlos, because as part of this, and you know how much we love Renee Powell here. She's a true legend here in Ohio. And so a part of the money that John Deere is putting up for this is going to go to support the LPGA USGA Girls Golf Program, and it goes into the Renee Powell grant. So this is really good stuff. And as you know, as we both know, the fastest growing, the most rapidly growing segment in golf industry is women playing golf. And especially through this pandemic, More mothers saw that it was something they could do with their families and get outside, and so more women took up the game. So this is good stuff. I applaud John Deere for putting their money into the LPGA Tour and the Ladies European Tour. It's all good stuff, and I really think putting the money into the LPGA USGA Girls Golf Program into the Renee Powell Grant is outstanding.
And with that, we'll wrap up our Par 5 news. And now we're going to go to our VIG, very important guest of the week, Robert Winskowicz. You know, we've seen Nick Faldo talking about this revolutionary new golf shoes, Sqairz. They say that they add stability to every golf swing and can help add distance as well as lower scores. And tonight, thanks to an interview that you did, Fred, we're going to have the inside scoop from our guest this evening, which is the founder of Sqairz, Robert Winskowicz. So, Fred, tell us a little bit about this interview.
Yeah, really enjoyed talking to Mr. Winskowicz, a really knowledgeable guy. This is kind of the second company that he's brought, started from the ground up, and he really went out and researched this product, got ex-FootJoy guys to come up with a really great shoe. And so I'll let him tell you about it. He's really great fun talking to him. Really enjoyed it. We're happy to welcome into Back Nine Report Robert Winskowicz from Sqairz Golf. Robert came up with this idea some years ago and has finally brought it to the market. Robert, welcome to Back Nine Report.
Fred, thanks for having me. Greatly appreciated.
You know, we've seen Nick Faldo talking about this revolutionary new golf shoe on TV, and he feels that they are the best golf shoe he has ever worn. Tell us a little bit about the design and how did you come up with the idea for these Sqairz golf shoes?
Sure. Well, I think you'd be interested to know how I actually came to meet Nick Faldo and then take you through the shoe. But I received a call one day from Sir Nick Faldo's agent, and he had said, "Listen, Sir Nick would like to get a couple pairs of shoes. Would you like to send them to him?" Of course, I was a little bit taken back and said, "Absolutely." Well, I came to learn that he was doing balancing exercises and found that he wasn't balancing correctly, and so he Googled the most stable golf shoe out there. And Sqairz came up. So he ordered them. He went and he wore them for a little over a month. And then what happened, I got a call and said, we want to do a Zoom call. So we got on with Sir Nick. And after about a 5-minute conversation, he leaned back in his chair and he said, "You know, these are the best golf shoes I've ever worn. I'd like to be part of the company." So it was quite an interesting story. And I think what happened for him was that we've finally given a golf shoe the attention that it needs. Your golf shoe is equipment. It is not an accessory. It is not necessarily a fashion statement, but it is a piece of equipment. And I challenge people. I always say, what's more important, the club or the golf shoe? And naturally, everybody says the club, but I think at the end of this, I could convince you it's the golf shoe. Well, what we did is we started with ground reaction force. And a lot of people in golf have no clue what that means, yet they hear it all the time. And as you swing the club, you create a series of forces. It could be a lateral, a vertical, or a rotational force. And as you're bringing the club down, in the downswing, you're creating a tremendous amount of vertical force that goes into the ground. And this is Newton's third law. Every action has a reaction. So it goes into the ground, and the ground acts as a trampoline. So it goes into the ground and back up through your feet, into your hands, and into the club head. So this force is really, truly where swing speed is generated from, and swing speed equals distance. So we looked at ground force and how to maximize and effectuate efficient energy transfer. So one of the key things that you find in a golf shoe, if you can hold the golf shoe by the toe of it and by the heel and twist it, get rid of it, throw it away. It's doing you no favor, a tremendous amount of loss of energy. The other thing you should look for is under the ball of the foot. The wider the platform under the ball of the foot, the more balanced and stable you are, the more surface area you have with the ground. Sqairz has got the largest base under the ball of the foot than any other shoe by at least 3 millimeters. Now, it doesn't look that. Now, why doesn't it look that? It looks symmetrical. Why? Because we started with a square toe. The square toe provides you the opportunity for your toes to sit naturally in the shoe. All other shoes angle the toes to the center of the shoe. And when it does that, it cuts down on the range of motion. And it actually shifts the toes downward a little. And that's the worst thing you can do in a golf swing is grip your toes into the ground and shift your toes downward. In fact, you'd rather have them sitting upwards slightly. That way it provides proper range of motion for the foot, and it also gives you that balance and that stability that is required throughout the golf swing. So now that you've got that balance and stability because your toes are sitting naturally, now because of the ball of the foot and the width under there, you get considerably more balance and stability because you've got a wider base. But then the other thing we looked at, Fred, was when we flipped the shoe over, now that you've got the wider base, you've got more surface area on the bottom of the shoe. And having more surface area, you can move the cleats around specifically on the bottom of the shoe where exactly you need them. And throughout the swing, there are 4 regionalized pressure points on the bottom of each foot. And so we place the cleats directly under those pressure points because wouldn't it make sense if that's where the greatest amount of pressure is, that's where you need the greatest amount of traction. So we design that, and the other critical element of a shoe is bringing the top of the shoe down on the top of your foot because you don't want your foot moving in the shoe. Again, it's a loss of energy. So if you can bring that top portion down comfortably and keep it in place throughout the round, then again, you'll have that consistency and you'll have that consistent energy transfer instead of the foot moving. So we devised a lace system that we printed silicone on the top of the laces, and once you pull it through the eyelet, it stays in place and you never have to tie that shoe again throughout the round. And that's why we call them the stay put laces. So again, the 3 critical elements you need, or 4 critical elements you need in a golf shoe. You need structure, so if you can twist it, toss it. You need traction, and you need spikes. There's studies out there, and we've done them, that if you're playing with a spikeless golf shoe as compared to a spike shoe, you're losing at least 11 yards of distance. And we've done all the studies, and our director of design spent 12 years at FootJoy, and they did the studies over there as well. So again, the traction system. And then the wide base under the ball of your foot, and then the lacing system. This all now provides you the opportunity to have perfect and efficient energy transfer from the ground back up. So when I go out and I say, this is the distance golf shoe, we have done studies. We hired golf labs out of San Diego, Gene Parenti, to do independent testing against the top 5 spikeless shoes in our shoe. And on average, people picked up 2.2 miles per hour in swing speed and 8.8 yards in distance. So as you probably know, in golf balls today are regulated. Not one golf ball carry and roll can fly a roll longer than another golf ball. One golf club cannot hit another ball farther than another one. It's the spring effect is regulated by the USGA. But what I'm here to tell you is that you create this energy, and think of it as a lightning and the lightning rod. You create the lightning, and the golf club is merely the lightning rod. You transfer that to the ball. Certainly it has its advantages, but distance comes from you. It starts with your feet, and having a good solid golf shoe can increase your distance.
Yeah, Robert, that's a lot of information there. You just gave us a physics lesson, but in a way that we can all understand it, especially the ground effect of bringing that club down and pushing against the ground and then pushing off of it to increase that swing speed. You have some great testimonials at your website. The most important new piece of equipment in my bag, and it's made such a huge difference already, are my new Sqairz golf shoes. That was from Bill Flower. I do a lot of walking on the PGA Tour. I wanted a comfortable pair of shoes as well as one that gives me stability. Sepp Straka. I just wanted to let you know that I love my Sqairz. They are so comfortable. I find myself wearing them around the house after the round is over. That's from a doctor. So these are great testimonials. People obviously are liking them. you were telling me before we started talking on air that the company is growing and the word is getting out there about the square-toed shoes.
Yeah, it is. And thanks to people like Bill Flower, like Sepp Stryker, and Nick Faldo, that, again, these people wore the shoes for months before we signed an agreement with Sepp, who is now ranked, I believe, 34 on FedEx Cup points, and Sir Nick Faldo wore them for over a month before we even discussed any kind of arrangement. Now, Bill Flower...
And he reached out to you. You really didn't contact him. He reached out to you because he was impressed with the shoes to begin with.
Exactly right. So these people are buying these, and we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. We call it our distance guarantee, that if anybody who wants to try this shoe can put them in play, wear them, and prove that what we're saying is true. So that's why we also say proof, not promise, as we give you that 30-day. And all of these folks out there that are buying this shoe are trying this. And in some cases, the fit may be off and we do free exchanges, but then we get them on their feet and I get the emails back. This is the most comfortable shoe. In fact, golf.com selected us as the most comfortable golf shoe of 2020. Golf Digest selected us as one of the best golf shoes of 2020. So it's truly technology applied to a golf shoe. And Bill, in our lifetime, you sit back, you say, geez, you know, how important is the golf shoe? And it really is an afterthought for a lot of golfers that they never consider it equipment. And the one person that I truly respect in their approach to the game of golf, which I'm confident you'll agree with me, is Ben Hogan. The guy didn't get too many things wrong. Well, back in the day, he had an extra cleat added on the ball of his right foot. And he did that so he can get more push-up, more traction. And in fact, he had 28 cleats at the bottom of his feet the last time he played golf, 14 on each side. So here's a guy that understood the ground, and a lot of the great teachers out there today teach that the swing is built from the ground up and your feet. And I always tell people, if you don't appreciate how important your feet is, go out in a sheet of ice and try to swing a golf ball, or sit in a chair, pick your feet up and try to hit a ball. That's where distance comes from. And that's our challenge, Fred, is to make people forget about the club for a minute, forget about the ball, because in my opinion, it's a commodity market. Surely you're going to buy things based upon your feel and what you think. But at the end of the day, the science says that if you put these golf shoes on, you will hit the ball straighter and you will hit the ball farther.
Bob, we're right here at the beginning of December. Christmas is coming up pretty soon. These would make a great Christmas present for your favorite golfer out there. Where do we find them? How do we get a pair of Sqairz shoes?
Sure. If you go on to our website, which is sqairz.com, that's SQAIRZ, sqairz.com. And we're running a series of promotions right now where you buy the shoe, you get a free hat, free carry bag, and free pair of socks. And in fact, Fred, we actually spent about a little over 8 months designing a golf sock. And the reason we did that is, why would you wear a rounded toe sock with a square toe shoe? So we built out a sock that we actually replicated a good running sock, one of the best running socks. Why? Because it's got compression in the areas that you need it. So that too adds for the comfort. So in this package, you get a free pair of socks, carry bag, and a hat. Obviously free shipping. But the one thing we offer that no other company out there offers is what we call free spikes for life. Once you buy this golf shoe, if your spikes start to wear out, all you do is you order them on our website. You pay the $5.99 shipping and handling, and you get the spikes free. And that's for as long as you own your shoes. You get free spikes.
Been talking with Robert Winskowicz from Sqairz Golf. That's SQAIRZ, SQAIRZ. You can find them at sqairz.com. Great Christmas present. Great idea. Thanks for explaining it to us, Robert. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Fred. You and your family have a great Christmas.
And you as well.
All right, Fred. So he, at one point, like you mentioned, he was there doing a lot of science, a lot of information. I was trying to keep up, you know. I was about to start writing it down, but it was just too much. I guess I'll continue to watch it again and again to get more of that information. But as a teaching pro, the question to you is, do you agree with that concept that the power comes all the way from the ground up? Because if that is the case, then definitely it's about getting the proper shoe to help you achieve that.
Oh, absolutely. If you look at a swing like Bryson DeChambeau, and another really perfect example is Justin Thomas. They squat down. So when they start the downswing, they squat down, and that pressure is going against their feet, especially on the balls of their feet. And your calves are tightening. It comes all the way up your legs, all the way up through the glutes, all the way up through the back. But you're pressing down. And then as the club comes down, you fire up. So you have to push against that ground with the balls of your feet. And so you're actually jumping up. And so that's throwing the club faster at the ball. And that's where they get that increased club head speed. Justin Thomas, he comes like inch and a half off the ground sometimes. When he swings, he jumps up so far. Tiger, when he was young, would snap up so hard his feet didn't come off the ground, but his left knee actually snapped backwards. That's what created all his leg problems. That's why he went to Hank Haney and left Butch to change his swing so he could be more stable on his left leg, because he wanted that down force and that snap, but it was too much snap on it and pushing his leg back. So these shoes, the biggest thing to me is the width across the ball of your foot. And so that gives that little bit more stability. And Carlos, one of the biggest issues that golfers have, they come out of the shot too early. They come up and out. And so you come up on that left foot. So what I've been trying to find out with them is and I do the same thing like everybody else. I want to try and stay down behind the ball and keep that weight on my right side a little bit longer. And I want to see if these shoes will help that stability to keep me down through there longer. But yes, Carlos, to answer your question, ground effect is very important if you want to try to maximize your distance to get that down force and then snap through it.
Right. With that, we wrap up our VIG, very important guest of the week, Robert Winskowicz. Now, let's talk about the practice range. Every week, Fred and I pick a topic, and each one of us take our own shots at it. This week, the big news is about a merger. It's about something. We're going to get to the bottom of it. But
not a merger. Pelly says it's not a merger.
Okay, it's not a merger. Okay. Let's get to the bottom of it. The PGA Tour and the European Tour, they picked Black Friday to announce a new strategic alliance that will see more cooperation than ever for the world's top two men golf tours. And a release that they both posted, the tours announced that the new partnership will include partnering on media rights among other aspects. European Tour, like you mentioned, the European Tour chief Keith Pelly was quick to refute any claim that there's a deal merger. That this is not happening. Emphatically, this is not a merger. I read one tweet that said the takeover is inevitable because of the situation that we're in. We're categorically not in financial difficulties. That is simply not right. Anyway, in addition to the media rights stake, there is one important part of the alliance that could prove to be key, preventing another upstart golf tour from swooping in to bail out the European Tour PGL from swooping in with, because if you see Golf Week's Eamon Lynch explain why that is important. Now, so what will this deal actually look like in practice, aside from being a bulwark against the Premier Golf League? Definitely. That's harder to know right now. It's possible the media stake is really just a way for the PGA Tour to provide some cash to the struggling European Tour. Both organizations have had major pandemic struggles this year. If you read what Jeff Shackelford was saying, but it's clear that the professional golf is coming to a crossroads here. the European Tour and PGA Tour were never exactly direct competitors, but this deal probably puts an end to most of their indirect competition as well. It's possible that actually opens up even more of an opportunity for an alternative tour from a demand perspective, although it's probably raised the barrier to entry for another entity. I'm going to leave it right there, Fred. So what's your take on this?
Well, Keith Pelley seems to be very adamant that they are not in financial problems, which I find very hard to believe. I mean, they're basically, whole thing came to a screeching halt. So I think that's not really the case. I think they were looking for some cash. I think the Reigns group, who fronts for the Premier Golf League, had a bunch of cash, and they were trying to more or less gain control of the European Tour. And the PGA Tour knew that would be a big mistake, because if the right situation, like the Premier Golf League, took over and had players available like the European players, and they were able to stage these big money events, these guys are going to Saudi Arabia to play for money. If the PGL came out and had a place for these guys to play and earned a bunch of money, they would go. So you're upsetting the Ryder Cup. You're upsetting the balance between the European Tour and the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour absolutely could not have that. They just couldn't have it. So they came up with some money, and for that, they get a seat on the board. So Jay Monahan becomes one of the members of the board of directors for the PGA Tour, and Keith Pelley was very adamant. He has no executive power here. He's just on the board of directors. Well, I hate to tell Keith, but if you got the money and you're on the board, you have some power. It doesn't care if you're executive or not. You're going to be heard. So I don't know what this is going to look like when it's all said and done, Carlos, but this whole deal, I really think, boils down to the PGA Tour getting their foot in the door with the European Tour to make sure that they keep the Premier Golf League out. So as we talked about earlier, Saudi Arabia is a part of this discussion because Saudi Arabia is putting up the money for the Premier Golf League. So it's all kind of a big circle here. And they want in. They want in professional golf. Saudi Arabia, I'm talking about. And I do not see the European Tour being anything more than a stepping stone or a minor tour, just like the Korn Ferry Tour, for the PGA Tour. I know the European Tour guys would just go crazy to hear that. But look what's happened in the last 10 years. Every time a player gets starting to really develop and do well, boom, they jump to America because the purses are 2 and 3 times greater. And you know, we've had Kieran talk about 2 different European tours. You've got the 7 or 8 Rolex events that have $7 million purses. Those are fine. Some of the bigger names go back and play in those when they can. But then you've got the other tournaments where the lesser European Tour players play. The big names are over in America playing someplace else. So it's really a complicated issue, but to boil it down and try to make it real simple, the PGA Tour put money in the European Tour. They got a seat on the board. Maybe we'll see more of a World Golf Tour down the road, Carlos, but it does bring them a little bit closer together.
Yeah, the details on the PGA Tour's new stake on the European Tour properties, which is the media production company owned by its European counterpart, they were not disclosed, which makes it a little more it's hard to understand what is it going to look like? What is it really what they're following with? But the interesting point to me is that the PGA Tour Commissioner, Jay Monahan, will take a seat on the board of the European Tour as part of the alliance. Why? I mean, that the reason is simple. That partnership has to have ramifications. Allowing him there definitely will prevent the Premier Golf League, which has spent more than a year trying to lure the world's best player for its new global circuit, prevented from taking over the European Tour. I mean, at least for now. If at the end of the day, money talks, they could just say, "Hey, Jay, sorry, just this is over. We're going to take the money here." But I actually think they are also setting up the stage for what could be that world tour that we have been waiting for. It's very possible there's going to be something because the players are really looking. I mean, I know Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka said, no, we're not going to be part of the PGL. But, a pandemic and a lockdown later, there are things that the players are starting to think, and they know how tumultuous this year has been for both the PGA Tour and the European Tour more than anything else. So I think there's a lot of things that are still on the back burner being cooked, but unless we get more details, we won't be able to know. But, there could be a compelling offer in the end from the Premier Golf League on a different type of deal. The European Tour believe a partnership with the PGA Tour was this best option at this moment. We'll see what happens. For now, the PGA Tour definitely is blocking any attempts from the PGL to be taking over the European Tour. The European Tour gets its very much needed money that they need. For now, it's good for both parts, Fred.
Yeah, I was interested in reading Paul McGinley's comments that Shackelford had on his website. McGinley, of course, is on the board for the European Tour, and he's been abreast of all the situation and all the talks. And I really believe that the European Tour was getting very close to a deal with the Premier Golf League, with the Reigns Group. Maybe they were just using that as leverage against the PGA Tour, and that would only make good business sense. But I think the European Tour needed the cash, and they were getting close to a deal. And so that's what prompted the PGA Tour to jump in there and do this. But McGinley said, the idea is we become a little bit more international in terms of schedule for the world's top players. So the European Tour is truly, as we know, an international tour. They play all over the world. The American players, the PGA Tour, they're not that excited about traveling outside the United States that much. You've seen it the last couple of years with this wraparound schedule where they've had events in Malaysia, they've had events in China, they've had events in Korea. Sometimes they get some decent fields, but guys are not that excited about traveling, to Asia and some of these other countries that much. So they're going to have to entice it somehow, really make it worth their while to do it. And if the tours got together, it might happen. So 3 of the 4 major championships are played in America every year. A lot of the World Golf Championships have migrated back to USA. I think the players can eventually expect, hopefully, from a European point of view, more international flavor to the world's best events. That's what the European Tour is hoping out of this thing, is to get more big golf events spread around the world. And Carlos, I think what you'll see out of this is, we talked about it back in January in February when I was down there with you in Dallas. We're going to have this 18 or 20 top tournaments, and the top guys are going to play in them. There are going to be other tournaments around the world, maybe in Europe, maybe in America at the same time, but the big names will be in these big events for $10 or $15 million purses. And the Fortune 500 companies of the world are going to pony this up because everybody's going to want to see those top players, right? So I think this is the start of that. I think we're going to get there, but this is just a first step that was brought on because the PGL is forcing the PGA Tour to make some moves.
Most definitely, the reason, and just to a point that you were saying about the PGA Tour and the players not wanting to go to those international tournaments, you just have to see when the PGA Tour is placing them. They don't put them from January to August. They know they can't do that because that's not what they want. But if they would put them at those dates, you can bet they will go anywhere they put the tournaments because the money purses is just the same. But when you put it on the fall for the wraparound schedule, of course, they're taking their time off after the compressed schedule right now is really hectic. And next year with the Olympics, it's going to be even worse. So you definitely cannot ask anybody to take those world trips. But I guess that maybe after next year, because next year is already compromised the schedule because of the Olympics, maybe 2022 also, which would be just 1 year after post-pandemic, because I strongly believe next year we'll rebound from this at some point. 2022 could be the start of maybe that world tour that we have been waiting and we have been talking about, that some of those big time tournaments will be played all around the world. And we'll see. I just think this is just a start for them for that world tour. But anyway, any final things you want to say before we close that?
No, it's really interesting news, though. We've been talking about this kind of thing for a long time, and they're going to force it one way or another. Greg Norman started back in the 80s, and here we are, almost 40 years later, and we're still talking about it, and I think we're getting closer, though, today, Carlos.
We'll see. With that, we wrap up our practice range for every week. Fred and I pick a topic, and each one of us take our own shots at it. Now let's close up with our final pod. So all I have to say, something I forgot to talk about, is Brittany Lincecum. She withdrew from the Volunteers of America this weekend because of COVID. She was at her home when she got the call. So definitely, but she's still looking forward to playing next week. I don't know if it's going to be possible or not on the U.S. Women's Open. She said she was with a few symptoms. She wasn't that big of a deal, but we'll see. She had to withdraw. So another, this time on the ladies' side, Fred.
Yeah, I whiffed in that too. I had it in my notes and just completely skipped right over it. In the final putts, Carlos, you got John Rahm's expecting a baby. He and his wife just announced on social media they were engaged, got married, and they got engaged in 2018. They got married last December, a year ago, in Spain. So congratulations to them. Also, just want to mention too, don't forget to check out Ohio Golf Journal and Michigan Golf Journal. Christmas issues are coming up here real quick. Also, we have several videos on Back Nine Report TV on YouTube and on Roku. Interviews, tips, and fitness. If you're starting to think about your next golf trip, visit Back Nine Report TV for insightful travel videos and reviews. So, Carlos, that's all I got for you tonight.
Well, Back Niners, that wraps up another week of the Back Nine Report. Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest on the world of golf. Special thanks to our VIG, very important guest of the week, the founder of Sqairz Golf Shoes, Robert Winskowicz. Now, don't forget to join us again. See us here on YouTube, or if you want to hear us, the audio version is on TuneIn. Also, if you haven't done so, I still don't know. What are you waiting for? Join us on Twitter. Our IDs at Back9 Report with the number 9 in the middle. My name is Sqairz Torres, along with Fred Altvater. We wish you to be happy, be blessed, and enjoy the great game of golf. Happy golfing, everybody.
Want to see you on the Back Nine.